I did. Maybe I should hold off on this, but I did get that thing produced, that episode produced with Auphonic. I had to give them money.
Did you give who money?
Auphonic.
To process the audio?
So if you're a non-paying customer, you can only process 20 minutes of multi-track. We've got like a big banner that tells you that. So I just had to give them money. I gave them $11, and I think I'm going to cancel that because that's a subscription. But I was, even though you and I had the discussion, I was under the impression that your credits would roll over, but they do not. The only way to get rollover credits is to pay a little more for just those credits. I don't think I'm going to use 9 hours in a month, but we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Well, I guess that would be, what 11 hours?
I don't know, Mike. Because
I paid for 9 hours. They give you 2 for free.
Oh, yeah, so that is 11 hours. But they don't roll over unless you just buy the credits outright. Do they still do that, where you can just buy the credits without doing a subscription?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but it's time. Demasi and Michael, just talking tech.
Auphonic. I really like Auphonic. It's a super nice tool, and if people aren't using it, we'll put a link of some sort to it in the show notes at yourownpay.com/DM 61. Had to breathe at the same time. I wasn't thinking, I promise. I just got done editing 59. But yeah, I had to pay. You have to be a paying customer to process multi-track audio. So DM59 was processed through Auphonic using the multi-track input, I think. And every episode up until then that I produced, which I think was a majority of them, I don't know if Demasi ever used multi-track when he was editing some of the episodes, was processed through Auphonic as one audio file, and Auphonic worked its magic to make it sound the way it sounded. I process, so my workflow, and I promise you guys, we do talk, well, actually not really. I was going to say, we do talk about other things aside from Reaper, but sometimes that is all we talk about. So I processed 3 different tracks. I selected tracks 1 through 3, and then I went into the render dialog. I chose to render selected tracks via master, and then I rendered 3 different tracks, which were exactly the same length. I had Demasi as track 1, me as track 2, and Jingles as track 3. And then I brought all 3 of those, and I actually put them into Google Drive. Had to disconnect and reconnect Google Drive because it's been 3 years since I had it connected, so things weren't. And I had deleted the Auphonic folder, and that really messed things up. And so I thought you could just choose files out of your Google Drive to run through Auphonic, but no, they have to be in the Auphonic folder to show up in Auphonic itself. And then, so I got all that figured out, got it processed, and I rendered the files out of Reaper with the panning set, which is what you're supposed to do. Then I gave Auphonic a little bit of money because I needed to give them some money to process it. And now, yeah, we'll see how 59 sounds. I think it sounds pretty good, but I also have a biased opinion. Would love some feedback from other people. Demasi, it's in Google Drive now too. So if you get some time, give it a quick listen through.
Sure thing. So looking at the pricing, so I did not know it costed, or you had to be a paying member to do more than a certain amount of time for multi-track. But I think the reason is because I did have credits, one-time credits still on my account.
And you don't need to be paying monthly. You just need to have paid them some money. Yeah. So you probably didn't see that message.
Yeah, I didn't see it because of that, because I still actually have credits on here. I'm assuming that once those credits are actually, because the way that the recurring credits, they just use that. The one-time credit purchases, 1, they stay on your account until you use them. 2, you use up your 2 free hours with Auphonic first before they start to tap into your one-time credit that you paid for. So I have basically got like, I have to log in and see, but I know I have something like 4 hours, that being the 2 hours free this month and about almost 2 hours of paid credit still sitting there. I would imagine that once that runs out, maybe I would then see that message. So I wasn't even aware of that. And I was trying to figure out why not until I, looking at their pricing page now, and I was like, oh, it's because I still have credit on my account actually.
Yep. And you bought that credit years ago, didn't you?
Man, years ago.
Like 2015, maybe 16 years ago. So I got in the car yesterday with Mallory, and we ran to the store. And usually when the car turns on, music starts playing. But yesterday, a podcast. I was like, hey, this ad sounds familiar. But a podcast was playing. I'm like, interesting. So she's moving into the podcast world more than just at her second job. That's interesting. Granted, it was a Parcast podcast. I don't know if you've listened to their podcast. I think it was Parcast. One of those big podcast networks, but she was listening to a crime medical crime drama podcast. So, yeah.
No, I have not listened to those. I tend to usually try to avoid the very large networks. I listened to my first NPR show for the...
Did you ever get that podcast I sent you yesterday to work? Okay.
I did.
Good. So I need to send people his episodes, not his podcast through Castro. I wonder if that's... I should play with that, because I wonder if that's the case with all podcasts through Castro, because that would be a bug. I don't understand why sending the episode worked, but sharing the podcast from the share screen did not work. But because I even clicked on it myself and it didn't work.
Let's go into the love-hate relationship with Amazon, because I'm pretty sure everybody has those things, and bring us back to a little bit of normalcy. You're still probably going through some craziness. I would imagine by the time that you're hearing this, and this will be hopefully my last reference to anything around the election in the U.S., you're probably still dealing with a little bit of madness from some,
people.
Areas or people right now, even as you're hearing this a month after the election. As you're hearing this on December 8th, hopefully you've been doing your Christmas shopping already, and you don't wait to the last minute. But, however, I am almost certain that I have, Mike has, and you have or will be making purchases on Amazon for your Christmas list or holiday list. Let's be a little bit more agnostic for your holiday list. And while Amazon is great, like, look, I love Amazon. Amazon has some aspects to it that I truly love. And then there's some things about Amazon that super annoy me. Like, I hate them. And me and Mike were having a conversation a little bit before actually recording this, a couple of days before recording this. And Mike mentions his love-hate relationship with Amazon. So I figured, let's tear Amazon apart. Let's tell you what we like about them and what we don't like about them. And I'll let Mike get started.
So what I like about Amazon is the fact that you can pretty much find anything you need. I got the boys a huge box of hot chocolate the other day from Amazon. So literally you can find anything you need. But the thing I don't really like about Amazon is you can find anything you need. Like, literally. So, actually, this holiday season, I think we've spent a probably equal amount of money and time on Walmart and Amazon, surprisingly, on both of those websites. But with either one of them, you can find whatever you want, and then you can just order it, and then it comes to your house, and the money comes out of your account, and then you look at your bills at the end of the month, and you're like, where'd all the money go? I don't got the money for the bills anymore. And then you realize that Amazon got the money for the bills, but you got Christmas taken care of, and hopefully you're done with your shopping, because my understanding is December is going to be an expensive month this year to buy stuff because of all the surcharges that the shipping companies are putting into place, because they need to have extra money to pay to keep their employees safe and be able to manage everything. So hopefully you're not shopping, but if you are, good shopping on Amazon.
Well, at least the upside to Amazon is that unless they really pull a real shit move, if you're a Prime subscriber, you don't have to worry about how much it costs them to ship anything to you.
I don't know though. Prime, well, that is true. Prime though, a couple months ago, really meant nothing.
Yeah, that is true.
Like, I would order something on Prime, and don't get me wrong, I understand why this was the case for the most part, but I would order something on Prime and not get it for like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, I had that experience. They were at one point in time prioritizing specific things.
Yeah.
And then, logistics of shipping for a while just really screwed the hell up. But come December, like if they have to pay surcharges to the FedExes and the UPSs of the world, we as Prime members don't have to worry about that. So I still want my stuff in 2 days is what I want. And if I don't get it, I'm going to call them and complain about it.
Now, here's my question, though, because you say we don't have to pay it, but Amazon typically raises the prices of Amazon Prime every year. So will we have to pay for it next year?
Good question. That is a very good point. I feel like that they're raising Amazon Prime prices every month. Yeah, possibly because they're every year, possibly because they are accounting for adjusting things to deal with shipping. But also because they keep adding more and more stuff to Prime that they feel like, they refuse to do a bundle breakup sort of deal. Like Apple One is a good example. Like I don't have to pay for Apple One Premiere to get all of the crap. They don't let you pick exactly what you want. But like I've told Amazon employees on several occasions, if you would just let me pay for the 2-day shipping, that is actually the only thing I want. Like I don't care about your TV. Because I don't watch TV, so I don't care about Prime TV. I don't Prime Video. I don't care about, whatever the other stuff is. I don't even know what the other stuff is. Like every time you go look at Prime, it's like, oh, there's a new thing in Prime. It's like I just want the shipping, man. Just give me my shipping.
You can back up your photos to Amazon Prime now, but I already use Google Photos for that.
Yeah, but yeah, that is a problem with Amazon is that you can't find. I think one of the bigger issues that I hate Amazon for, I don't like some of their business practices. I'll throw that out there.
Right.
I don't like that, and I have been trying to. Unfortunately, COVID has not really allowed for this to be a reasonable thing to do because sometimes you have to just get whatever you need from where it can be gotten. It's not always available everywhere that you can get it. But I've been slowly working on trying to go as Amazon free as possible. Again, not very practical right now, so I haven't really made much progress, but the plan is there. The intention is there. Just to see how much can I get by with not using Amazon. There are obviously some things that I cannot stop using that are related to Amazon, such as Audible. Like there's not really any other place to get audiobooks, unless I want to buy them in Apple Books, but then they're tied to Apple Books versus being available to me everywhere with Audible. So there's some things like that where you can't, I don't see a way to break up that relationship, but buying everything from Amazon is a thing that I have thought about. You got Costco, you got Sam's. Walmart is doing some kind of shipping plus Walmart plus thing. Yep. So places like Sam's and Costco's, other big box stores, have had like their version of subscribe and save for a while. So it's a thing that I am interested in investigating again once things really kind of get back to normal with products shipping and availability everywhere. Like right now, Amazon has somewhat of an advantage over other places just because they have such big warehouses. Walmart has been ramping up their setup. So the other thing I don't like about Amazon that really annoys me is, I'm going to share a tip at the end of all this, but another thing that really kind of bothers me about Amazon is that they don't seem to be as effective at stomping out, at barring counterfeit stuff. So, I'm looking for a particular thing and I find it, but it turns out it's not actually the thing that I wanted. And the downfall to that, and maybe Amazon doesn't care about this at this point anymore, that could be a reason. The downfall to having bad experiences with what turns out to be a fraudulent product from a third-party seller is that it makes me at least look at sellers before I make a purchase, and then if it doesn't say shipped and sold by Amazon.com or whatever, then I won't buy it necessarily, which damages some people's legitimate income because they're not trying to scam you, they're not trying to price gouge you. But Amazon's not really effectively dealing with that. The other issue I really like, is when you look at a product, I tend to look at reviews when I'm trying to find a thing. I don't know exactly. Like, it's not, the Anchor such and such thing or something like that. It's like I'm looking for a particular thing. I go search for it on Amazon. There's several options. I start looking at ratings and reviews because I want to see what people have to say. And I don't want to just look at the one that has 5 stars, but it only has 2 reviews, and everybody, it's great. Like, yeah, whatever. This is your mom flagging your product or whatever. I don't care.
Right.
But the problem with looking at reviews is when a product has variations. So let's say you're looking at an extension cord, and this particular seller sells multiple variations of what is just a extension cord. One is 6 feet, one is 3 feet, one is 50 feet, right? Well, the reviews get mixed in from all of the products. So somebody has a very negative thing to say about a thing, but it turns out they're bitching about the 3-foot one, right? Well, I'm not looking at the 3-foot one. I need the 50-foot one. But the reviews for said product and the ratings are all mixed in with the one product versus if I select 50-foot as the thing that I want to buy, I should only see verified purchasers of that particular one, the same thing that matches the SKU I'm looking at versus. And extension cords was kind of a dumb example to go with, but I think you can follow my point though.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, one variation of your product.
This darn extension cord is too short for me. When really you needed a longer one.
Light bulb is actually where I went into this at. So there's the soft light, what they call soft light. They're not extremely harsh. And then there's like the super low light, and then there's the daylight bulb, right? Well, I'm reading through reviews because I couldn't remember which light bulbs I bought. The ones that I originally bought were not available at the time. I was looking for light bulbs, and I didn't want to spend $50 on, or at the time I didn't even want to spend $30 on 4 wise bulbs because I needed like 10 bulbs. So looking for a deal, and I'm looking at the reviews of this particular light bulb that looked good. It looked like it was right in the price range. It looked good. Everything was great. And then I get a couple of bad reviews, and I figure out, not in the first one, but in the second review or third review that I read where somebody had a problem, it was with the variation of the product that was meant for like lamps. It was like some differently shaped type of light bulb, not just your regular screw it in a socket to go in a bedroom light bulb. Right? Well, they had a problem with those, but they're mixed in with me looking at this product, right? It's like, I'm not even looking at them. What does this have to do with anything? Anyhow, Amazon. We're not going to go activists on this show. That's a whole different show. That's another show. So, yeah. Hopefully by the time you're hearing this, you have done your shopping. As Mike said, you have gotten most of your shopping out of the way. Because I'm sorry, if you're listening to this on the 8th, after it releases, which will be December 8th or any time after that, even if they're not price gouging you, because people are trying to, make it work, and they understand everybody's having tough times, shipping is going to be a nightmare regardless. So if you order something after the 8th, you're probably going to get it on the 25th. Just saying.
And then you get to explain to the kids why Santa Claus.
Man, he running late, man. He stopped off at the Starbucks, and then he got a flat tire, and then your kid's like, but I thought the reindeer pulled the sleigh. And it's like, well, the reindeer had a sprained ankle, so
Yeah. That's what we meant. Demasi, we've got this friendly little competition going on. Looks like we're both doing pretty decent on it. I'm gonna link at yourownpay.com/DM61 to how competitions work on the Apple Watch. But I'm curious. One of the questions that I had when I was putting this in the topics is, am I the only person you're competing with? And does competing with other people, or at least with me, make you try to be more active than what you typically would be? Because I've noticed for me, it makes me more conscientious of my activity levels and what I'm doing.
So Tia just challenged me to a competition yesterday. So that competition actually started today, which was actually a terrible day for me to start a competition like this. This has been one of my worst days in about a week.
Mondays are horrible for me. I mean, I'm always doing calls or something. I have 2 more Zoom calls today.
Yeah, Monday is a big meeting day for me. Like, it's a lot of meetings on Monday. A lot of time spent at the computer on Monday, not to mention projects that are going
And
on.
she knew it. That's why she challenged me yesterday.
You know what? I didn't think about that. Damn, Mike, look at it. Mike is exposed to conspiracy.
Oh, there's always a conspiracy.
Interesting. So I'm trying to read Todoist with this Braille display, and this is not going well.
Todoist on the Braille display on the Mac or on iOS?
On the Mac.
You might have a better experience if you connect it to iOS.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try that because I can't read anything here. Like seriously, I have no idea what kind of weird stuff they're doing. But yeah. As far as competing with someone, yeah, it does make me more aware of what I'm doing. Because I have made like. So last night for me is a good example. I did like a late, kind of late in the evening, well, late at night, high interval workout, which is basically just me doing a bunch of different exercises, push-ups, sit-ups, dumbbell curls, all sorts of different things, just doing small sets and just rotating between them real quick. But I really wasn't quite feeling up to doing it. Like I almost skipped it, and I was like, nah, because if I skip it, then Mike's gonna be on my ass tomorrow because we were very close.
Yes.
At the time that I had looked yesterday, it was like we were very close to each other. I'm like, man, I can't lose this one. I challenged him on the show. I can't lose. I gotta go get this workout in. And that was really the motivation for it. Like once I started, it's like, man, I'm glad I did it. Once I finished it, I was like, I'm glad I went ahead and did it. But yeah, the motivation for me to actually go ahead and do it was the fact that me and Mike had a competition going.
And see, we talked several months ago on the show, and I'll try to find the show where we talked about it, and if I can find it, and then I'll link it at yourownpay.com/DM61, especially for you new listeners. Really appreciate you guys. You can go back and listen to some of the old content. But Headspace started back in April or March, might have been May, somewhere in that time frame, to give people a year free of their service for COVID. And there was some other restrictions based on you had to have lost your job. That's what it was. You had to have lost your job or been furloughed to be eligible for it. So I went and I signed up for it because I was furloughed. And I'm going to be honest with you. I had used it for about that week and then I stopped. And I'm like, oh, well whatever. It's either between me resetting a device or switching platforms or whatever. But then Demasi, he went and he told me, he said, hey, Michael, I can do a workout that is a mindfulness workout. I don't even remember how that conversation came up. But I'm like, wait a minute. I can do mindfulness workouts. And then I remembered about Headspace. So I went and I re-downloaded it on the iPhone, signed in, and still have my premium account for another couple of months. And I started using Headspace at lunch, actually, because I have an hour-long lunch. And I'm sorry, I'm working from home. I don't need an hour-long lunch. So I started doing a couple of mindfulness workouts, counting them, on the watch. And I think the competition helped me realize that that's something I can do. And I probably, because I'm obsessed with my rings. I've got my move streak going. I think I'm at 11 or 12 days, which is not a lot, but it's practically almost every day since I had the watch. There was a few days where I was down, actually. But yeah, so Headspace is a great tool, super accessible on iOS, super accessible on Android, and I recommend it for people interested in guided mindfulness. Now, you can just sit there and do nothing and count that as a workout. That's perfectly fine if that's what you want to do. But for me, having that guided assistance with being able to make it through an hour, actually it wasn't an hour, it was like 20 minutes of mindfulness definitely helped. And it helped me stay focused on what I was trying to focus on, whether that be sleeping is a good one that Headspace can help with, or that being just trying to be more mindful about your body and about your lifestyle as well. So
Yeah, I never did look at Headspace, so I should give it a look. For the listeners I don't know if it's going to matter or not. Do they still have that
I don't know.
deal going or not?
I do not know. Let me check real quick.
But yeah, so Headspace. I've heard good things about Headspace. Another tip: if you're an Audible subscriber, there are a couple of meditation guided little mini courses there, which I have listened to a couple of those. I haven't actually made it through the entire 21 episodes or sessions of one of their sessions, but I did get started there. And then when I'm meditating, like for me, is me sitting and trying to clear my mind, doing the breathing exercises. Those do actually help. I know it sounds stupid when you just talk about it, like yeah, you got to breathe in and breathe out slowly, and it's like, man, this sounds nuts. But it does help. It does help.
Yeah.
And I find myself being more focused since I got into it. And that's another thing that the competition actually helped me with. Because, like, I didn't think Tia actually, reminded me, like, well, if you do a, meditation session like that, that is, I'm like, yeah, that'll do two things. Number one, it'll give me a workout. I try not to sit there and say I did it for like 30 minutes. I think one night I did actually sit there for 30 minutes, but I usually don't sit there that long.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm going to try to start doing this week is just kind of incorporating maybe like a 10 or 15 minute, meditation session just throughout the day. So do like multiple, just do them throughout the day. Like one maybe early morning or mid morning, and then one later in the afternoon. So the competition has helped raise my awareness and get me back on the rings. It's like, now I got a little bit of a streak going. So I want to keep that going. So that, like I said, last night, it was 11 something my time. It's like, man, I got to go knock out this workout though, so I can close that ring. And
holy shit. 2,000 workout.
We will link to, if I can find it on Twitter, we'll link to it at yourownpay.com/DM61. To Paul, I'm going to just say Paul Rogamiba, because I don't actually know how to pronounce his last name. I don't want to butcher it, but it is the head of Rogamiba. He reached 2,000 workouts on his watch, or 2,000, move ring closes or something on his watch. And the badge, he got a nice little badge and all of that. And then the message said, holy shit, you have closed your ring 2,000 times. He posted it on Twitter. If I can find it, I will link to that tweet in the show notes as well. But yeah, if nothing else, like just being mindful of your health. And Mike recently asked me to share a link with him for an app called HealthView, and I had to go open up HealthView because I was like, I don't think I've set this up since I reset my phone months ago. I went and opened it up and had to give it all the permissions and all that blah, blah, blah. And it reminded me of how nice the HealthView app is, because it allows you to, one, select the data points that you want to see on your health dashboard, for lack of a better way of putting it. But you can choose whether or not you want to see specific bits of information. And then it shows them to you. And with VoiceOver, is very accessible. It kind of reads everything all together, but you can tap on, it reads a particular bit of information. So it'll read your, how many steps are you taking today? And it says steps today and how many. And you can tap on that and get more information as to, when were you most active or least active, things like that. Very useful information and very accessible. One of the reasons and it reminded me when I sent this link to Mike today, it kind of reminded me of why I liked HealthView so much, is because it's one of the few apps that pulls health data out and displays it in a better way than it is in the health app, because you don't have to dig around through all the sections, and that is actually accessible, because a lot of these apps that are designed to present your health data to you on iOS or on the watch are very graphical in nature. So they're showing you bar charts or graphs or pie charts of, your activity and your ups and downs and things.
Yeah, and you mentioned the app in 59, and that's why I was asking you for it, because I was putting those show notes together.
I
So I'm
thought you were
glad.
trying to get it.
No. I might take a look at getting it now, but you mentioned it, and I'm like, man, I should get that, because I want when I get links, especially from Demasi or for myself, I want to actually get the links to the apps we're using, and this is a whole nother topic. But you could go search for HealthView in App Store, and who knows what you're going to come up with, because maybe there's a lot of apps with those two words in the title. So I wanted to make sure I was actually getting the correct app, and that's why I asked you. But now maybe I'll go download it and check it out.
It is from the same developer who makes Waterminder. I'm not sure if you used that previously.
I have not used it, but I've heard of it. So yeah.
Yeah, that is an app that I actually need to start back using too. I think I need to, at least this time I'll be setting it up from scratch, and I know what annoyed me about it, but then also I think those annoyances are a little useful because it does remind me to go drink some water. It will track other things, so I ended up with tons of coffee in there for some reason. Not really sure why. But tracking all of that data, and then the thing that so back to HealthView, coming from Waterminder, tracking your intake of fluids is a good thing, I feel like, because you can determine how much caffeine you're taking in, how much water you're taking in. There's different ways of doing that. But HealthView will actually let you choose to show that information. So it not just activity info, but dietary stuff. So if you're using an application like
Food noms,
or if you're a MyFitnessPal user or anything like that, any data about what you're eating that is being written into the health app, like the calories and the sodium intake and all of that stuff, can be displayed to you in HealthView in a very useful way, right? So if I'm worried about what's going on or why am I feeling weird, well, data that is being compiled over, and that's one of the advantages of the watch, and using these apps over time. Short term maybe not gives you anything, but long term you're able to look back and see what changed, and then maybe figure out why all of a sudden you're super tired.
And as mentioned in DM59, one of the super nice things about it is you don't necessarily have to have any of these apps installed. As long as your watch is on you, it's still tracking data, and you can go back, like Demasi could go back to 2017 and see data that was tracked on his watch back then, and he wasn't, I'm speaking out of line here, but I assume he wasn't as health conscious then as what he is now. So maybe he hadn't considered, keeping track of how many calories he burned, but he could theoretically go back to March 15th of 2018 and see how many calories he burned and see the trends of what's happened over the last 3 years.
Absolutely. And you're right, I wasn't as health conscious. Like, that's one thing the watch has done for me, is even though I haven't necessarily become a huge workout person, that's something I'm trying to get back into, because COVID unfortunately has been a little it's been bad in general, right? To start with, I'm not meaning to diminish anybody's issues, but one side effect is, for a lot of people, I think, is that you gain weight because you're just in the house and you're not as active when you're in your house, just sitting in your house all day, as opposed to getting out and having to go do things. Like, it's amazing how many calories you probably burn when you're just going to the grocery store, walking around the freaking Costco for 2 hours looking at crap.
Sounds like you have some recent experience.
I was in Costco Saturday.
Saturday.
Saturday. I got the news in Costco, as a matter of fact.
Nice. So the other thing about sitting around your house is the stand reminders. Now, do you use those or not?
I do, but it seems that mine are... So it's supposed to remind you every hour to stand up. And either I don't feel my watch tap me, or I just miss them. I don't know. I get them sometimes. Like, I'll see them. Like, I'll feel a tap come in and I'll look at it like, you need to stand. It's like, oh, I should stand up.
Yep. That's my same thoughts about it. Is like, so I sit at a desk for 8 hours a day, and I am trying to close my stand ring and my activity ring on a regular basis. I need to work on the workouts ring, but that's a totally different topic. We'll talk about that later. So I get the tap. Most of the time I do actually feel it. Sometimes I'll be typing or talking to someone and I will get it and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll stand in a minute and then I'll forget. But then I will say that the stand reminder has mostly caused me to take a break every little while, especially while editing podcasts, because when I am editing podcasts, I don't want to, I try hard not to do other things, because if I do something else, I will get distracted and then I will stop editing podcast and then I'll get out of that mindset. And then it just is a downhill spiral. But if I get a little tap that says, hey, Michael, stand up pretty much at 50 after the hour, I realize, man, I have not stood up for 50 minutes. I need to actually get up and just kind of pace for a minute, do something for a minute and then get back into it. And that versus me jumping over to Chrome or me looking at Gmail or something helps break up the monotony that can be audio editing at times, and it helps me, I think, stay alert. So I'm super happy with the stand reminders, especially when I get them. And then when I'm working, I'll stand up and talk on the phone because I'm using a headset, and that'll be just fine. It is with the desk. We opened 59 talking about standing desks, and I really need to look into this more.
Man, me too.
But it helps me stay alert and active. Now, if I could just raise my keyboard up in a reliable way and just stand up and walk around, I think I'd have a lot more stand hours on my watch right now.
Yeah, I think what happens for me oftentimes is I think I've gotten kind of into the habit of just getting up and moving around anyway, and I think a lot of times it kind of coincides with the stand. So it's either, I get up probably maybe a few minutes before it was going to tap me, and then I'll move around, and then by the time I come back and sit down, it's has detected that I stood and it counts it. Also, I have noticed, I'm pretty certain, I'm not 100% sure of this, but I have a theory. I have a theory about this, which is I think the watch will also count your stand for the hour if it's after. So say you get to tap at 3:50 and you get up at 4:02 and go in the kitchen and get a glass of water, walk around a little bit, go back and sit down. I think you still end up getting the point for that.
I've observed that too. I know where you're, I can't for sure say that's how that works, but I've observed that. Then you look at your watch at 15 after and you're like, oh, I have an extra hour on the stand thing. That I don't understand that. But then you get that 4 o'clock hour as well. So it's interesting.
Yeah, but I it's helpful because, as you said, sitting at a desk all day, it would be nice to have that is the thing I got to investigate, standing desk. Even just a tabletop, not a full on standing desk, but just a thing you put on top of the existing desk that will raise and lower the keyboard. I mean, basically all I really need is just something to raise and lower my keyboard, right? I don't really need to lift the computer up because I don't use it. I
could just build a shelf behind my monitor or something. Maybe that might be easier than.
I've actually thought about that too, because I need to solve a problem for Tia at her desk, so she can start back using her computer, which is getting her monitor up high, but having her keyboard be lower. And I was like, well, maybe I can make a little thing where she can put her monitor up there, and then she could stand and just move the keyboard to a little shelf. Maybe I could build that, and that could be what I could do for me too, is just build a thing where, when I want to stand and actually work, I can, just put my keyboard up on a platform and stand. Yeah. Because I don't actually.
Because you're right. That's all that needs to move. I don't care where my monitor
right.
is.
I don't care at all.
Yeah. Well, as I told my manager, my monitor isn't even plugged in. I don't need two screens.
Yeah. Get me a standing desk instead of this second screen you're trying to buy.
Right. Oh, I should push for that. It won't happen, but I should push.
Well, man, look, dude, the company is focused on, fitness. Why not make sure your employees are fit?
Yeah. Right.
They won't give you a bike to ride while you're, taking a phone call.
They give us free access to the app, though.
Huh.
But, yeah. And the app, by the way, side note, Peloton app on iOS, super accessible. Android's pretty accessible too, if you're interested. Not plugging it because I work for them, but if you're curious.
Yeah, well, that's a good tip, man. Some people may actually wonder, like, that could be a reason a person has not made a purchase yet, is because they're like, man, I don't know if the app is accessible, and I want to be able to use this freaking $18,000 bike that I just bought.
$100, get it right. So, quick question, and then we can talk about automation if you want, but I do have a quick question for you. How does someone sign up for Apple One, and how is that experience?
Apple One, the way that I got there, and I feel like what Apple is doing is what I would deem it a soft launch, because the word is out. People have posted about it. But it's not an in-your-face sort of deal, right? Like there's no push notification. I haven't heard of anybody yet getting a push notification like Apple One is here, like none of that shit. So right now, as of today, as we're recording, this is a day before they're having their third event in as many months. So the November event coming up on the 10th. We're recording a day before that. I expect that what I'm about to say right now is going to be somewhat different after tomorrow, because I think that's when they're going to make the big push. Because I think they're also going to announce Apple Fitness.
Hopefully.
Possibly. But the way that I got there is once I knew it existed, and actually somebody else gave me the tip. It was like, you got to go to your subscription. So go to settings and then tap on your name and then tap on subscriptions. And then on that page where you see your subscriptions, and there's a checkbox for that. Before you get to your active subscriptions is a button that says Apple One. And tapping on that will take you into the interface to sign up for Apple One. And after that, if you've ever played around with changing a subscription or canceling a subscription from that particular view, it is very much like that. Like once you tap into Apple One and you hit continue that you want to sign up, you pick your plan. It looks just like when you look at any other subscription, where it shows you the different levels and what they cost and all of that. So it laid out for me, the Apple One individual plan, the family plan, and Apple One Premier. And told me what I got with all of that. I selected Apple One Premier, and they gave me a 30-day trial. Now, and I believe Apple One, from looking at the information, Apple One Premier is the only one that gives you a 30-day trial of anything. Well, let me back up. Apple One Premier is a 30-day free trial. Now, if you have within that 30 days a service that you're already paying for come up for billing, you're going to have to pay for that, right? That's how I'm assuming that is the way that works. But let's say you haven't used, like I haven't used News Plus, or I haven't used, what's the other one? Arcade. Right. So those services I have access to now, but I don't have to actually make my first payment of $29.99 for Apple One Premier until the beginning of December. So you get a 30-day trial with Apple One Premier, and any services that you're not currently actively paying for. I don't know how it works if you've already used a trial for a service and then you didn't continue paying for it, but any service that you're not actively paying for will come, everything that's included in the bundle that you're not already paying for, you won't be billed for. Now, in my particular situation, I had already paid for Apple Music and iCloud storage for the month before I signed up for Apple One Premier, because my Apple Music comes out either right at the end of the month or right at the very beginning of the month. And then iCloud storage was like a couple of days after that. Which is one of the reasons I was happy about Apple One Premier, frankly, is because it gave me all the stuff I was already paying for, in addition to some crap that I didn't necessarily care about, like News Plus.
Arcade.
Although News Plus, interestingly, I read Wired magazine last night. I don't know that I know I most certainly will not switch over to Apple News Plus as my only source of reading the news. But I might occasionally go browse through to look at different magazines or news. Magazines mostly. The newspapers, at least the WSJ, Wall Street Journal. very heavily laden with ads.
Yeah.
Macworld and Wired, which are two magazines I browsed last night, were actually pretty reasonable. But yeah, once you have signed up for Apple One, it is my understanding that any services. So with Apple One Premiere, because my first payment for Apple One Premiere doesn't happen until next month, I won't have to pay for the services that I'm already paying for next month. They'll just be bundled in, and it shows you that now. So like it shows me my Apple TV Plus subscription and my Apple Music and all of that stuff. Like, I made a payment this month, but now I don't have to pay for it anymore. So those will automatically be turned off by Apple.
Okay.
On any of the other plans, the way that I think this will work is, let's say you pick the Apple One for families. That does not, to me, appear to include a free trial, although I think you still are eligible for the free. I don't really know how it works, honestly. But what I think will happen if you get it, if an included service, so if they bill you for it instantly, so you go to go to Apple One and you pick Apple for Families at $20 a month, which includes Apple Music and Apple TV Plus, and you've already paid for your Apple Music subscription for the month. What I think will happen is they will bill you for Apple One Family, and then refund your amount for Apple Music that you've already paid for that month. That makes sense?
That makes perfect sense, and we can follow up with this because I'll be honest with you, the reason I asked you where it is I went and my natural thing was I was looking for it in the App Store. And I could not find Apple One.
I looked for it in the App Store because I thought it would be on the front page of the App Store.
I have one more topic on here. Sometimes you just need to do it yourself without automation. What were we talking about with that, Demasi?
What were we talking about? We were talking about moving some stuff around in WordPress. Is where we started that conversation. It was like, I could try to figure this out and do it, but to be safe about it and make sure it actually works.
In order to successfully automate anything, really, you need to be comfortable with the process that you take to do that task. And sometimes just getting in there and getting your hands dirty and going through and doing the task that you might want to automate is best for the first, 10, 15 times you do it, so that way you're comfortable with doing it the right way and not automating the wrong way of doing the task. I'm thinking of Hazel right now, actually, because it's very easy to do that with Hazel.
Oh, man, Hazel will trip you up so fast. Hazel will humble you very quickly.
Yes.
Think you have been so clever, and then all of a sudden everything in the folder just disappears, and you're like, wait a minute, hold on. That's not what I mean. And that's why, like, my philosophy when it comes to automation is, I love automation. I love being able to configure something once and then let it just go. But if you don't understand the intricate details of it, it's very easy for you to break something. It's like, tags in Mac OS, right? If you don't really pay attention to how you use tags at all, and then you decide you want to move files around with Hazel based off tags, like, you're going to very quickly find yourself with a mess.
Yes. Or have an asterisk in the wrong place when you're doing folder-based automations. All of a sudden, all your files and your documents are moved to the downloads folder or something. Like, why is this happening? And then you remember. Hazel is because the computer's only going to do what you tell it to do. Yes. And if you tell it to do the wrong thing, that's really on you.
Yep. That's why you have to understand it. Manuals, as they say, RTMF. Wait, is that what that? No, RTFM. I'll get that acronym right. That. Read the fucking manual. Yeah.
Yeah, RTFM.
Yeah, there you go. I have to actually say it sometimes just to make sure I get the letters right. It's like, wait a minute, read RTMF? That doesn't sound right. Oh man, but yeah, it is sometimes. Look, you have to know what's going on before you can start telling the computer to do it for you, right? So you know exactly the instructions to give it. You can be as explicit as possible, and if you don't, and mistakes happen, things happen, or you can figure out that you took an hour and a half to build an automation that could have been done a whole lot simply had you just simply done it yourself the first couple of times and figured out like, oh, here's a shortcut for this whole process.
But yeah, that's all I got. You can follow me on Twitter at Payown, Payown. He's on Twitter at Damashe, Damashe. And show notes and more information about this episode can be found at
yourownpay.com/DM61.
You've been listening to Your Own Pay Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, visit yourownpay.com/cast for exclusive content and to contact us today. We're eager to hear your thoughts and about how you're making this podcast your own. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon. The Your Own Pay Podcast, yourownpay.com.
no snarky comments at the end, so we are good.
Nope, didn't have one.